Welcome everybody, this is Tom Sullivan here with Real Talk Investing, and today I'm going to show you how you can become a millionaire through real estate. Now, one of the questions you may often hear is, how is this possible? How do you get to that point where you have that net worth of $1 million? And for some people this may seem like an impossible task. You might not know even where to start, and you may be thinking, oh, if I'm buying a 2-family or I'm buying a 3-family, there's no way that can get me to a millionaire status. And what I'm going to show you today is a road to success for you to get to a millionaire status. So essentially this is a 12-year plan, and there's a couple of assumptions we got to make along the way, but I will show you what those are, and this is one example of how you can become a millionaire through real estate. While there's plenty of other options, plenty of other scenarios that can come up and different ways you can achieve it, this will at least show you a simple path that you could follow and how you can get to that point. So to take you into the millionaire roadmap that I'm going to be using for this, there are a couple of assumptions we have to start with. And the first assumption is that you have savings of $25,000. Now, for some of you that may seem like a lot of money, but it doesn't matter how long it takes you to get that. So if you do not have that today in your bank account, it doesn't matter if it takes 5 years, 10 years, 20 years to get to that point. Once you have that $25,000 saved up, you can really get the ball rolling in this process. Now, that's not to say you can't do it with less, but for this specific example, that is our starting point. The other assumption that we make here is that all properties that are purchased are going to require a 25% down payment. Now, this is usually what you see for a lot of, say, multifamily investment properties, and you may see a different variety of ranges. Some may be less if you got a good bank that you're working with, a good mortgage setup, and you may need to put down more for some more complex buildings and apartment purchases. But for us, we'll use 25%. And two other things that we're taking into consideration is that tenants pay for all utilities. Now, this is fairly common. If you do have multiple utility meters set up, you will often have them pay for them. And the last thing is we take 10% of the gross income in these calculations, so what your rent income necessarily would be, and put that towards vacancies and repairs. So that way we're accounting for some of the issues that may pop up along the road. So this makes this a much safer plan for you to be following. So to get us started with this process, in year one, once we have $25,000, which is what we saved up for in the assumptions, our goal is to find a multifamily unit for under $100,000. So this would put us at that 25% mark for that down payment. And one of the families that I was able to find was a 2-family for a multi-property. Now, this is a real example. This is one that I found offline and just decided to do some searches to see, is this truly possible? So I found myself a $70,000 2-family property, and the current income on that property is $800 per unit. Now, in some cases that may seem like a lot. In other places it may seem like a low rent amount. But for this example, this was a real life property that I found with that income. So at the $70,000 point, we only had to put approximately $18,000 down. So we were able to hold on to $7,000 that remains in our bank account. And in turn, we were able to then set up for our monthly income to be $1,600. And then all of our expenses, so that's including our taxes, setting up our mortgage payments, and everything that had to go into that property cost was $650. So that way, net income, what was coming into our pocket every single year, was $11,400 per year. Now, as you see up here on these charts, this is what will keep tally essentially as we go through this, so you could see each and every aspect along the way. So right now, we now own one property that costs $70,000. The equity in the property is $18,000, as you saw with our down payment. Our gross income was a little over $19,000, subtracting our expenses of $7,800, which was 12 months at $650 for those expenses. And in turn, our net income is $11,000. So the total in the bank after the first year, taking that $11,400 and adding that $7,000 we had remaining in our bank, puts us at $18,400 is what we have after that first year after initially buying the investment property. Now in year two, since we only have $18,400, we have to make sure that we find a property that meets our needs. And essentially the highest that we can go up to is approximately $70,000 for that next property purchase. So we were able to find one for $68,000. And that one also, even though it was a little bit cheaper, we were able to find one that also made $800 per unit. So that's the beauty of being able to research and dig deep into finding yourselves a deal. In this case, we were able to find a better deal than we found on that first property. And in this case, we essentially put down $17,000 as that down payment. So we only had $1,400 remaining in the bank. After that point, once again, we were able to get the income of $1,600, and the monthly expenses were essentially the same. So it would have ended up about being $650. So we were again able to get about $1,100 for a year's net income on that property. So this over here now is an updated scorecard for us. We now have 2 property owned. Our essential equity in those properties is about $45,000 between those 2 properties. Our gross income's $38,000, and our expenses are about $15,000, which leaves us just shy of $23,000 as our net income. And once we take that and add it to the $1,400 we had remaining, this puts us at $24,000 in our bank account currently at the end of year 2. Now, going into year 3, we could have once again thrown our money in and went for another 2-family apartment, but going through the calculations, I felt like at this point the best thing that we could do was save that money for a year. So saving our money for a year led for us to once again get that net income of $22,000 to go into our bank account. So now our bank account is up to $47,000 because we were able to take what we had from last year and add that extra $22,000 to that amount. At this point, we now have $47,000 saved up in our bank account, which gives us a lot more room to go and buy bigger, more expensive properties that can in turn provide us with more income. So with $47,000, our goal was to get a house under $188,000. And we were able to find one for $165,000 that was a 5-unit property. Now, as you'll see, when you start getting more units, you could usually see that net income start to increase specifically for an individual property. And in this case, after we put down that down payment, we were able to get $670 per unit for 5 units, as opposed to what we were getting of $800 for 2 units. So as you can see, that money that we're getting in terms of the gross income of the property greatly multiplies, and in turn gives us a monthly income of $3,800. And after expenses, our net income on the property is about $28,000. So putting that into our calculation here, after spending the $47,000 and now having 3 properties, we have equity of over $100,000. So our net worth, just from an equity standpoint, has now hit the $100,000 mark, and we've only been doing this for 4 years. And now our net income is almost $52,000 every single year. So this just shows you what you can do in 4 years is now you could be making $50,000 per year. Now that alone right there is higher than the average income in most households. So you're able to show that just in 4 years, find yourself a couple of good deals, good properties, and you could be set for life. Now, for those of you who are really looking to go down the road to success, we're looking to continue this, and we want to keep on building on top of these numbers. So in year 5 and 6, our goal is to save for 2 years and collect that income that we're getting of about that $52,000. So we're able to save for 2 whole years, bring in over $100,000, and the next game plan is to prepare to sell the 3 properties that we have already purchased. So that would be our 2 two-family houses and our 5-unit property. Because at this point, we're ready to scale to much nicer apartments, more luxury apartments. So we could take those and based off of the equity that we had, essentially just saying we sell it for that same exact price when usually we'll have some sort of appreciation and see a gain in the value of the properties. But for this calculation, we'll just say that we ended up breaking even from what we had at the beginning. So our equity is what we'll be able to get out, which is that $117,000. So taking those two numbers together, so we have $160,000, which were in the bank, and then the money that we're able to take from the equity of selling those properties of $117,000, that puts us at about $277,000. So we're able to buy a property over $1 million if we chose to. Now, what I was able to find was a property just shy of that $1 million mark that was bringing in $2,000 per unit with a total of 6 units. So with that income that we're getting a monthly income of $12,000, expenses of about $4,000, which leaves us with $8,000 profit per month. And that in turn gives us just shy of $100,000 per year in net income on this property. So to go over where our numbers currently stand, we have one property, we have $262,000 in equity, because that is what we are putting down approximately for our down payment. We are able to get our gross income up to $144,000, and our net income is now at $96,000. In year 8, 9, and 10, because we have this new property, we hold on to it. We just hold it and save that income that we are getting of that $96,000. And over the next 3 years, if we just save that $96,000, we're able to save up $288,000. So going over our numbers now, the equity in the property has gone up just a little bit just from the appreciation of the property. Our income has been $96,000, and taking those 3 years of money plus what we already had in the bank, we're a little over $400,000 available to use towards another property. So in year 11, we have $411,000 in the bank, and the goal is to find now another multifamily that we could use that money to purchase. So I was able to find another similar 6 unit for essentially the same price, and with that, keeping the same numbers as we did before, so $2,000 income per unit, and then a net income for the entire property of $96,000 per year. So with those numbers, you could then see that we're making $96,000 per year on that property, and we were making $96,000 on the other property as net income. We're now making $192,000 per year in net income off of those 2 properties, and our bank account gets to keep on growing. So we're at $353,000 in our bank account with equity in our properties of over $500,000. So now once year 12 hits, the status of millionaire has been achieved. Our net worth is now $1.1 million. And the reason that that is possible is because our equity in the properties is $596,000. And with us gaining the net income of $192,000 per year, we now have over $500,000 in our bank account. So when you add up over $500,000 of equity and $500,000 in our bank account from our income, we have now achieved the status of millionaire. So seeing this, it is pretty crazy to think that in a short 12 years, you're able to go from just having $25,000 in your bank account to essentially being able to make almost $200,000 per year and own 2 properties. So with that, having over $500,000 in equity in those properties and being able to just constantly build up that bank account where you're seeing every year you're getting almost $200,000. So if you can just continue to save that $200,000, or at least most of it, you'll be able to keep repeating this process and move your way even further up the ladder to getting bigger properties, getting more income coming in every month. So the opportunity is endless once you get to this point. So for all of you that are just looking to get started. It doesn't matter where you start. You saw in this example, we were talking about $25,000 buying our first property and just trying to get a little bit of money coming in. So you start off making about $10,000 per year, but if you're able to keep on capitalizing and keep on moving through this process, in a short 12 years, you can be a millionaire. And this is just one example. So you may be able to find better deals out there and take those 12 years down to say even 5 to 8 years. Or even if you take it a little bit slower, who cares if it takes 20 years? 20 years is nothing in terms of the process of being able to change your whole entire life. So people work for an entire lifetime, starting working at 20 and don't get to retire till 60. So that's 40 years of time that people are working a 9-to-5 job. And now instead of focusing on that aspect, you could focus on how you're going to become a millionaire in the next 12 years. So I hope everybody enjoyed this video. Today we were able to take you through how you can become a millionaire through real estate, regardless of where you're starting from. All it takes, as seen in these examples, is to be able to have $25,000. Now, once again, it doesn't matter how long that takes you to save up. Even if you could only save $2,500 per year and it takes you 10 years, don't you think it's worth it to be able to put 10 years towards $25,000 to then in another 12 years be able to be a millionaire? So do whatever it takes for you to save up that money. And if you have any questions and want to get started on this journey, reach out to me. So you can reach out to me here on this channel. You can reach out to me on Instagram, on the website. I'd love to hear your story, love to hear what you're trying to achieve. And I'm here to help you and try to guide you throughout this process. So thanks again for watching the video. Would love if you could subscribe, give me a like, and look forward to seeing you next time.